If you ever work the night shift as a security guard, you learn one rule very quickly. The building is never empty. Even when the lights are off, even when the doors are locked, even when your name is the only one on the duty log, something is always there with you. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't move right away. It just waits, patient, quiet, like a shadow that refuses to be counted and only lets you know it exists when it's ready. My shift started at 11 p.m. The office complex was modern. 6 floors, a basement parking area, glass walls, polished concrete floors. Nothing old, nothing abandoned. No flickering lights or peeling paint to suggest hauntings. That should have made it safe, right? Wrong. There's something about too much order, too much glass. It shows everything, but hides more. The first hour passed quietly. Too quietly. I walked the hallways, keys jingling in my pocket, flashlight cutting through the polished dark. I checked doors, elevators, windows. Everything was normal. Too normal. The cameras hummed softly. Numbers in the corner of each screen ticked with mechanical precision. Camera 1, Camera 2, Camera 3, Camera 4, Camera 5, Camera 6. Basement. Always basement. Camera 6 never behaved right. It didn't glitch. It didn't freeze. It simply delayed. Movements appeared half a second late. Enough to make your brain notice. Enough to make you question what reality even looked like down there. Maintenance always said it was old wiring. Nothing serious. And I nodded and wrote it down. But in my gut, I knew better. Something about that half-second delay, it wasn't wiring. At 1:17 a.m., someone appeared on camera 6. A man, standing perfectly still between 2 parked cars. No card swipe, no door alert, nothing in the system to suggest he had permission to be there. Just standing, watching. I leaned closer to the screen. Dark clothes. Ordinary. But his posture was wrong. His head was tilted slightly, like he was listening to something I couldn't hear. Basement parking, I said, grabbing the radio. Identify yourself. No response. Then, the man moved. Not his body, only his head. And he smiled. The radio crackled. I hadn't pressed it. A calm voice said, "You're late." It didn't come from the basement. It came from behind me. I didn't turn immediately. Night shifts teach you to confirm before reacting. Panic makes mistakes permanent. I checked the reflection in the dark monitor. The security room was empty. Only me. Only the chair. The hum of servers. I turned slowly, flashlight sweeping every corner. Nothing. No shadow. No movement. The radio light was off. Whatever I heard hadn't come through the system. When I looked back at camera 6, the man was gone. Not walking away. Not fading. Just gone. I rewound the footage. Playback showed something worse. He had never moved. Never smiled. Never turned his head. My phone vibrated. Unknown number. Camera 6 isn't for visitors. I typed back. Who is this? Instant reply. You're covering Martin's shift tonight. Martin, the night guard before me. Reliable, quiet, always early. Disappeared 3 months ago. Management said he quit. No goodbye. No paycheck. Just gone. I asked, where's Martin? The reply came after a long pause. He stayed past protocol. The basement flickered on camera 6. For less than a second, it was full. People. Not moving. Not walking. Watching. All eyes on the camera. A whisper slipped from the radio. Don't acknowledge them yet. I muted it. My hands shook. My stomach churned. That's when I noticed the notebook. Black cover, worn edges. Not standard issue. It hadn't been there before my shift. First page. Night shift log. Unofficial. Years of entries. Same format. Time. Camera. Observation. No emotions. Just facts. Halfway through, Martin's name appeared. His handwriting neat, professional, until the last pages, slanting hard, pressed too heavily into the paper. 1:17 a.m. They are closer tonight. 1:22 a.m. Camera 6 no longer reflects accurately. 1:30 a.m. Acknowledgement is a mistake. The sentence stopped mid-thought. I closed the notebook. The monitors hummed, but the silence behind the hum felt intentional, like the building was listening. Camera 6 flickered. This time, it didn't show the basement. It showed the security room, my chair, my desk, my back. It was looking down at me. The radio clicked on. "Part of the job," said the calm voice, "is learning when to look away." I froze. The first hour after that flicker passed like a slow heartbeat. Every monitor hummed, every camera ticked, but the building had changed. The silence was thicker now, almost tactile, like air compressed around me. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone, was walking along the walls, keeping pace with me even though my footsteps echoed empty. I checked camera 4. The hallway stretched farther than it should have. I've walked that hallway dozens of times. I know exactly how many lights are mounted on the ceiling. Tonight, there were more. Not new lights, not installed. They were revealed. Shadows that didn't belong, doors that weren't on the blueprint. The building was showing me that order was just an illusion. I decided to leave the security room. Protocol didn't require patrolling upper floors after 2 a.m., but it didn't forbid it either. Every step out felt heavier, like the floors subtly resisting. My flashlight cut through the hallway, but the beam seemed hesitant. My own shadow fell wrong, elongated, stretching toward the walls rather than behind me. Halfway down the 4th floor hallway, I felt it. Breathing. Slow, steady, just beyond my hearing, but close enough to feel. I froze. The breathing froze with me. My light swept the hallway. At the far end, a figure stood, facing the wall. Security uniform. My uniform. Name tag catching the beam. Martin. He didn't turn. Didn't acknowledge me. And yet I knew. He was watching. Watching through me, the way the building required. The radio whispered again. I hadn't touched it. "This floor doesn't require interaction," said the calm voice. "Observation only." The lights flickered. The hallway stretched farther. Office doors that were once measured and finite now lined endlessly, closed and identical. My flashlight could barely reach the end, but the building seemed satisfied with the boundaries it had imposed. I moved slowly, step by step, understanding that the night had rules. Camera 3 showed a hallway I hadn't noticed before. Mirrors that didn't exist during the day reflected me back, my own reflection delayed, slower than reality. Each step I took, my reflection followed half a heartbeat behind. The basement wasn't safe either. Camera 6 flickered. I stared. This time it didn't just show empty concrete pillars. Reflections of figures appeared where no bodies were. Watching. Waiting. The hum of servers became louder, but the noise didn't come from them. It came from somewhere deeper, beneath the floor, behind the walls, inside the building itself. I pulled the unofficial logbook closer. Martin's last entries grew frantic. He didn't stop writing until he disappeared. The words were slanted, pressed heavy. 1:17 a.m. They are closer tonight. 1:22 a.m. Camera 6 no longer reflects accurately. 1:30 a.m. Acknowledgement is a mistake. The page ended mid-thought. I realized what Martin had meant. Staying past protocol was more than ignoring schedules. It was surviving the night, surviving the building. The air shifted, cold, then warm, then heavy again. My own reflection in the glass beside the stairwell didn't match my movements. Slightly delayed, slightly taller, slightly older. I was beginning to see what all the other guards had seen in glimpses. Long-term staff aren't always walking the halls. Sometimes they exist in the glass, the cameras, the places meant only to observe. By the time I reached the stairwell leading to the basement, I hesitated. I didn't need to look down to know what waited. Camera 6's feed already showed it. Figures standing where the cars were. Guards in uniforms, perfectly still, facing inward toward the center of the space. They weren't alive in the usual sense. They were echoes, continuations, waiting for acknowledgement. The calm voice came again, through the blank radio channel. "You're seeing long-term staff," it said. "Retention is very high." I swallowed. "That's not retention," I whispered. "That's replacement." No denial, no argument, just the faint hum of the monitors. Then something new appeared. On camera 4, the hallway reflected my footsteps before I took them. Shadows appeared in the mirrors that didn't exist during the day. Doors I'd never seen lined the walls, closed and identical, as if the building was stretching itself, learning its own shape. I didn't know how long I stood there. Minutes, hours, or maybe seconds. Time slowed until the hallway became infinite. My flashlight a fragile barrier between order and whatever watched behind the walls. And then I realized the cruelest part. Martin had never left. Not really. He had become part of the building's rhythm. He was the measure of its patience, its slow burn. Standing, watching, waiting. And tonight, for the first time, I understood why some floors never sleep. Because someone is always standing guard, always learning, always becoming part of the glass, part of the camera, part of the place that doesn't forget. I backed away slowly, eyes never leaving Martin. The elevator lights flickered on, every button glowing faintly, even though no elevator was moving. There was one button unmarked, glowing dull white. I didn't press it. I took the stairs. The building had rules, and I was still learning them. By the time I returned to the security room, my hands shook. My body felt heavier. I looked at camera 6 one last time before sitting. Figures stood in the basement, watching, waiting, not moving, but aware. I opened the logbook. A blank page stared back at me. My hand hovered. The pen moved on its own. Time, 2:43 a.m. Camera. All. Observation. Learning continues. The building had trained me without words. And I knew that this night, the night was far from over. Hours passed, but the night didn't end. Not really. The clocks ticked, the monitors hummed, but time had stopped obeying. Every shadow felt intentional, every flicker in the hallway deliberate. I could feel the building breathing around me, waiting for me to understand something I didn't want to know. Camera 4 caught movement. Not walking, not ordinary. A security guard appeared in the hallway. Calm, measured steps, precise pauses at each door. I recognized the walk immediately. It was mine. The posture, the rhythm, the tilt of the head. Everything mirrored my own training. But the reflection behind the glass was different. Older, worn, eyes darker. The delay subtle, just enough to make my stomach twist. I realized then, the building keeps its staff in layers. There's the guard who walks, and there's the guard who becomes part of the building. Part of the glass, part of the cameras, part of its memory. Camera 6 lit up. The basement looked normal, concrete and cars. But the reflections in the windows told another story. Figures standing where no one existed. Watching angles rather than people. Silent, patient, and they were waiting. Waiting for acknowledgement. Waiting for me. The radio clicked on by itself. Calm voice, familiar now, almost gentle. You have 2 remaining options, it said. Neither is incorrect. I swallowed. That's a lie, I whispered. You don't care which one I choose. No reply. Only the hum of the monitors. I stood slowly. Every step toward the door felt heavier. Not stopping me, just reminding me that leaving was a choice, not a right. My reflection in the glass beside me moved slightly behind. Leading. Watching. Camera 1. Main gate. Flickered. Doors were open. Streetlights beyond. Cars passing. Life outside. Real. Reachable. Yet camera 6 told a different story. Basement full. Guards standing along pillars, near exits, all facing inward. Toward a center space. Reserved. Sacred. Watching. The voice came again. Exit is permitted before acknowledgement. After acknowledgement, placement occurs. I paused. My reflection walked ahead of me, turned its head to make eye contact. Using my own voice, it said, "If you leave, someone else fills the space." I realized then the weight of protocol. The building doesn't trap you. It balances you. It trains you. Every guard who walks out makes room for another who stays. Someone new. Someone unprepared. I exhaled slowly. Every instinct screamed to run, to escape, but I stayed. Halfway to the door, I glanced at camera 3. Another guard walked the hallway. Calm, precise, unhurried. My walk. But the reaction didn't match. Older. Slower. Watching. Observing. Patient. The unofficial logbook lay open on the desk. Blank page. My hand moved on its own. Time. 4:41 a.m. Camera. All. Observation. Continuity maintained. The monitor stabilized. Camera 6 no longer lagged. Reflections aligned. The basement was orderly. Quiet attention. The radio stayed silent. The building's rhythms were clear now. When to look, when not to. When acknowledgement created problems, and when silence preserved balance. I finally understood Martin. He hadn't left. He had stayed past protocol, yes, but he had also merged with the night. The building trained him, shaped him, absorbed him. He wasn't missing. He was everywhere, yet nowhere. Part of the rhythm, part of the glass, part of the cameras, part of the night. Morning came not with sunlight, but with movement. Day staff entered the lobby. Elevators ran normally. Outside, the city woke as if nothing had ever happened. No one asked about Martin. No one asked about the extra uniform in the locker room. They never notice. The new guard arrived. Polite nod. Took the chair. Didn't see the second logbook. They never do. They never notice until the building decides to show them. I walked the halls, checking doors that didn't need checking. My reflection in the glass was calm, focused, familiar. I realized the building doesn't haunt people. It trains them. And tonight, somewhere, a new guard is learning the difference between watching something and being seen by it. I finally sat back. The lights dimmed slightly, settling into their rhythm. The building's hum was steady. My hand rested on the logbook, but I didn't write. I didn't need to. I understood the rhythm, the rules, the price of acknowledgement. The radio never came on again. The monitors never flickered, but I knew the night was far from over. The building would remember me, and someday, someone else would walk these halls, learning the same truth I had learned. Some shifts never end. Some nights never release you. Some buildings don't need ghosts. They only need guards willing to become part of the watch. The building was quiet now. Too quiet. But I knew better. Quiet wasn't empty. It was patient, observing, waiting. I sat back in the security chair, eyes scanning every monitor, every hallway, every reflection. The basement on camera 6 looked normal again. Cars, concrete pillars, no figures standing in the shadows. And yet, I could feel them, watching from places the cameras didn't show. From cracks in the glass, from angles that didn't exist in blueprints. Always watching, always waiting. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Protocol violation detected. Decision phase approaching. I stared at the screen. The words lingered longer than they should have. No vibration. No fade. Just waiting. I realized the building didn't force choices. It guided them. It balanced. Every guard who stayed was added to the rhythm. Every guard who left, someone else filled their space. The front doors on camera 1 opened, showing normal streetlights, normal traffic, normal life. But camera 6 told another story. Figures stood along the pillars, between the cars, facing inward, toward the reserved space. Watching angles, not people. Waiting for acknowledgement. The voice came again, soft, almost calm. Exit is permitted before acknowledgement. After acknowledgement, placement occurs. I stood slowly. Each step toward the door felt heavier, as if the floor itself reminded me that leaving was a choice, not a right. I passed the glass walls. My reflection walked beside me, not matching my pace, leading, turning its head, making eye contact, using my own voice. If you leave, someone else fills the space. I froze. The weight of continuity pressed down. The building doesn't trap. It trains. It balances. And I realized Martin had never left. Not really. He had merged into the building. His presence now everywhere yet nowhere. Part of the glass, the cameras, the shadows, the rhythm. I chose to stay. The doors closed on their own. Camera 1 showed empty streetlights, but I didn't turn. My reflection led me back to the security room. The logbook lay open on the desk. Blank page. My hand moved without thought. Time, 4:41 a.m. camera. All. Observation. Continuity maintained. The monitors stabilized. Camera 6 no longer lagged. Reflections aligned perfectly. The basement was orderly. Quiet attention. The radio remained silent. I understood the rhythm now. When to look, when to ignore, when acknowledgement created problems, and when silence preserved balance. Morning arrived, not with sunlight, but with movement. Day staff entered the lobby. Elevators ran normally. Outside, the city continued as if the night had been ordinary. No one asked about Martin. No one asked about the extra uniform in the locker room. They never noticed. The new guard arrived. Polite nod. Sat in the chair. He didn't see the second logbook on the shelf. They never do. I walked the halls, checking doors that didn't need checking. My reflection in the glass followed perfectly, calm, focused, familiar. I realized then that the building doesn't haunt people. It trains them. And tonight, somewhere, a new guard is beginning to learn the difference between watching and being seen. The radio never turned on again. The monitors never flickered. And yet, I felt it. Martin's presence, the building's patience, the continuation of the night. Some shifts never end. Some nights never release you. Some buildings don't need ghosts. They only need guards willing to become part of the watch. I finally understood. The night is a rhythm. The building is a teacher. And the students are eternal.